Oh, no, that's what they do for the full commission, but we are recording this meeting, just so you know. If you're not speaking, please mute yourselves.
Okay, thanks, Jody. I've called together call to order this meeting of Plans Review Subcommittee of August 31st, 2022. Start by taking the roll call. Joel Ireland.
Here.
Carol.
Here.
Savannah.
Here.
Ricky.
Here.
And Jan is here. So we're all present, 5. Next item number 2 is approve the legal action report for the meeting of the 11th of August of 2022. Is there a motion?
This is Ricky. I move to approve the legal action report from August 11th.
I'll second.
Carol, second. Do we have any discussion? Okay, go ahead and take a vote. Savannah?
Aye.
Ricky?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Joel?
Yes.
Jan is aye. Motion passes 5-0.
Are you joining the PRS meeting? Okay, thanks.
Excuse me, I just lost the agenda. Okay, next on is item number 3, historic preservation zone review cases reviewed under UDC section 5.8 TSM standards and historic design review guidelines, revised Secretary of Interior standards and guidelines. And the first project is 3A Teatro Carmen Patio project, 384 South Meyer Avenue. I believe this is a courtesy review. Staff, do you have any introduction on this? Oh, development of a new exterior patio infrastructure, landscaping and wall along property line. It's a courtesy review, Barrio Historic Preservation Zone. It's a contributing resource.
Yes, so this project was also reviewed by the Barrio Historic Zone Advisory Board as a courtesy review on August 8th. They generally were supportive of it. Obviously, they took no action because it's a courtesy review, but they were supportive of the action to do the proposed facade restoration and the patio project. They generally just had questions about materials and materials proposed for the patio. They had questions about the proposed ticket booth on the Carmen Teatro and what it'll be designed like, which it hasn't been designed yet. But overall, very supportive of the proposed projects. And Corky and Drew are here to present.
And I just realized that Savannah was going to recuse herself before I barged right in with this. So, and we'll give a call for the next item. Thanks.
I will recuse now. Thanks, Jen.
Good afternoon. Hi, this is Corky. Scott or Ian, do you want to do any introduction as the Pima County property owner?
Sure. Hi, this is Ian. Is everyone familiar with the project and how the county's involved and how Stratford Artworks is involved, or would you like me to kind of recap that?
It'd be useful if you could recap that.
Sure. So Teatro Carmen is a property that the county acquired via Stratford Artworks with the assistance of Stratford Artworks. And now we've entered into a partnership with Stratford Artworks, who has been the recipient of a Arizona Heritage Grant that is being subawarded back to the county So this partnership to restore Teatro Carmen and rehabilitate Teatro Carmen, and that's where Poster Merchant McDonald comes into the equation. The county's seen this as a priority cultural resource for a long time, and fortunately, we were able to bring it under county ownership. Herb, remind me when that happened, 2020?
So we closed in December of 21 and you guys bought it in June of 22. So
Oh, so it's so recent. Okay, yeah. I know we started the conversation earlier, but okay,
Yeah.
Great. So that's where we're at. We're super excited about this project. I know that there's been some hurdles on the county's end about, well, let's say the state AG's office end about getting the grant through, but we are very much in hope and in favor of getting this started as soon as possible. And hopefully we see some movement here in the coming future. But here's step one, is to go to folks like yourself and get your comments on the proposed plan. So I'll turn it over to PMM, but if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer any.
Herb, do you want to add anything?
I think the only thing I would just add is that what we've identified is a total budget of about $6.5 million for the project, and we've raised about 3.1 of those. And so the decision that was made with the county was that we would break this project into two parts, one being the exterior and then the second part being the interior. So through various grants and contributions from private foundations and other things that we've been able to secure, we have the money to do both the facade and the exterior patio space in the short term, which actually will help us in the long term raise the rest of the funds so we can show progress and sort of begin to tell the story of what happened at the Carmen and what will happen to the Carmen in the future in terms of programming and community use. So that's why we're doing it in this fashion. And we were able to, sort of dig up the 1918 photograph. So we were able to sort of really point back to the original facade of the Carmen. And then we found the 1941 blueprints from the Elks expansion, which helped fill that space in. So we think we've done a pretty good job of doing the historical research, and we think that this is going to add a lot to the streetscape. And also with the National Register nomination of the Barrio Viejo, it seems like the timing is really great for this to all come online, and we're very excited about it.
And one other thing to add, just for folks that aren't familiar with the Heritage Grant, one of the conditions of that grant is that Arizona State Parks and the State Historic Preservation Office will have a 30-year covenant on this property to ensure that those federal monies those state monies are well spent into the future and for the preservation of the resource. So there will be that oversight on top of what the county will be advising.
Great, thank you. Drew, can you bring up the slide presentation, please? We have a single slide presentation that includes the patio and the facade, but we'll stop it at the first one for comments and questions. Can you do it without the notes? Yeah, thank you. So thank you all for helping us review this today. This is the presentation we actually prepared for the Barrio Histórico Historic Zone Advisory Board. So we've not made changes except for one that I'll show you in a bit. There are actually, as Herb was describing, two major projects, but there are actually four different projects that this is divided into. Earlier the year, before the monsoons, we sealed the roof of the Black Elk Club, which is the blue building to the left, just to make sure that we didn't have any water intrusion during the monsoons, and that was a successful project. The next project will be the Facade Project, which we'll get to in a bit. And right after that will be the Patio Project, and we'll go into some detail. Just to give you a little bit of a oversight, Teatro Carmen on the right, built in 1915, it functioned as a theater for less than 15 years. Spanish language theater, a very important cultural resources within Barrio Viejo. It closed and was eventually acquired by the Black Elks Club. Black Elks in the sense that the Elks Clubs were segregated back then. And therefore, in order to have an Elks Club for African-American Tucsonans, they needed their own separate building. They acquired the Teatro Carmen. They later built the addition. and then occupied it till the mid-80s. So roughly 50 years of Black Elks and 15 years of Teatro Carmen. And our goal is to honor both of those histories, and also the grocery store from the Lee family on the corner, to honor those. And so that was our goal during this process. Next slide, please. I'm going to let Drew walk through some of the historic research that he and Scott O'Mac and others have done, and Herb in putting this together. It's really important to understand the history and what the resource is. Drew?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, these are a few photos from inside the historic Teatro Carmen when it was originally purchased from the Rawlings family. As you can see, they used it as a storage facility for most of their construction materials and the various properties that they own. You can see this is the original stage in the back, the blue, and the proscenium, which we intend to restore. We started this project off by sort of collecting as many images to sort of tell the story of what was going on along the street, because there is limited information from roughly like 1960 to now. It was a real challenge to figure out what was going on. Luckily, we were able to find the original photo, as you can see down here in the bottom left. And we found that at the Arizona Historical Society, and we're guessing it's a 1918 photo of the original Teatro, where the Elks did not exist, and it was built in between two existing buildings, and it borrowed the adobe walls on both sides. We then used a series of Sanborn maps to lay out, you know, what had happened and how the street was built and the street facade. You can't see it here, but they had the two theaters along Meyer confused. They originally labeled the Carmen as the Royale and the Royale as the Carmen, which later was adjusted. Here's a 1924 photo, the third photo on the top line, that shows a photo of the theater with the original fly loft, and you can see the shadow bearing down. So we knew that it had a fly loft and a large stage, which was taken away quickly. 1941 photo, you can see that the fly loft has been taken away, but you can see the backside, the oblique here of the corner market, which was the Lee market, and the fruit stands and markets in between. Some of the Sanborn maps identify that there might have been a bread oven back here. We're not really too clear. As we come along, you can see the different photos just showing us, we couldn't tell when the corner market was taken away. So we know it was somewhere between like 70 and 74 that the market had been demolished. And, you know, it also explained to us when the Elks building was built. And we know that was somewhere between 1945 and 47 or 49, pardon me, here. And then these two bottom photos, 1977 photos, are from the historic, I'm forgetting the word here, but these are the only two photos we have of the Teatro and the Elks Club aside of our 1915 or 1918 photo. Here are some of the Sanborn maps that we use to align with our street facade and sort of tell the story of what was going on. And you can see through the different maps, you know, 1947, the Elks had appeared. We found some newspaper articles that identify it, that the Elks took over the building in 1935, but it's still unclear. You see in the 1949 photo or map that the Elks had added on their adjacent building and identified it as the whole two buildings of them. Here's a series of aerial photos that helps us tell the story, which I have already gone over, but here's the stage house, as you can see, appearing in 1924. Here is the old market at the corner of Meyer and Simpson in our 1941 oblique. And then here it's still existing, but the Elks Lodge is built in, you know, we guess 1947, 45 in that existing photo. Here we have some of the original facade photos, and this is our 1918 photo that we found at the Arizona Historical Society. And as you can see, the building was originally a brick building with large openings for the front porch. So you could actually enter in and it was covered patio, which is our ideal goal to return the building. Here's our 1977 photos taken from the historic maps, and it shows that the Elks both inhabited both buildings. There's a blade sign with the Elks on the front. You can see that the exposed brick was still there, which is something we intend to return. And then here's a 1986 photo from the Arizona Daily Star. Oh, and then here, this outlines the two borrowed walls. Now, the wall that is on the south side still existing. It is a high adobe wall, goes about 20 feet high. But the one on the north side has since failed and was replaced in 2 series of construction with CMU block. And you can see that in our most recent photo we have of it. Here is some of the historical information that we've gathered. Herb and Scott O'Mac have been really diligent about this, just collecting as much as they possibly can that helps us tell the story and understand how the teatro was used, what sort of events, and what type of culture was coming from it. And then through our research, once we realized that the Black Elks were there, which is the IBOP Elks of the world, not associated with the Elks that we know now, but more kind of an off branch of the Shriners, we were able to find these photos from the Arizona Historical Society showing the congregation of the group, and note they're both men and women in the group. And here's some of the original photos we found of the group in front of the building. So we used a lot of this to help us decide what the facade will look like in the future. And then here's some photos we found on the interior, which is still the same. We have these original lights. The floor and the walls are pretty much the same. And these photos are taken from a cutest baby contest. And I don't think we have a date on that, but. And I'll let Corky take over from here.
Thank you, Drew. So this is an overall master plan of the development of the site. Starting at the top, you can see we have a recessed porch, reestablishing those arched openings. It's outdoors, but it's obviously covered. A ticket booth that projects through the lobby, and then a lobby which gives way to a single space. Generally will hold about 300 people. It depends obviously on what kind of an event, but in auditorium style, it'll hold about 300 people. We intend to reconstruct the stage house at approximately the height, 30-foot height is shown on the Sanborn maps. And then to the south of that yellow area, some support stage and green room and loading dock, et cetera. The areas in green and blue and gray and purple are the proposed renovation of the later edition Black Elks Club, which we intend to remodel as a restaurant. Our current thinking is to gray shell that. So what we'd likely do is build the restrooms in green and the storage and the dressing rooms, but the purple and blue would be left to an operator to design that and develop that. From that restaurant area, we intend to open that brick wall, which is now solid, to the south and create a community patio that operates at a couple, 3 different levels. Highest level to the north, it's equal to the finished floor level of the restaurant, and then a halfway down ramp, and then a second, and then a lower patio. We kind of have a vision of City Mouse and Country Mouse, whereas the upper patio will be hardscaped and more urban, and the lower patio will probably be a gravel finish and a little more rural. Going back to Teatro, we're on the right side above the porch in the lobby, we'll have a projection room, some office space, and then of course the major space and the stage are both open to below. Next, please. Can someone mute? Can someone mute, or can everyone mute? This is a project schedule. It's shows the roof repairs in red circle that we did in the month of June. That's now complete. Our intent was to do the facade work in September. We've got a little bit delayed by some archaeology and some soils investigation that we're doing. And so that probably will slide by about 3 weeks. And then we'll work on finish the construction documents for the patio. And we're expecting essentially November through the beginning of the year construction of the patio. So we're going to review the patio next and then come back to the facade after we have questions and comments. So here's the proposed patio project. We've got a 90% set of drawings that show that. This shows very clearly the upper patio and the lower patio, with, again, the upper being urban, opening directly from the original Black Elks Club building. The area on the left will be part of the last phase of the project, so it's shown in white. Interestingly, that historically has never been built on and is currently a driveway as well. So an upper patio with trees and tree grates, a ramp down the middle. There's a stone planter dead center in the site that we're going to be using the excavated stone from the basement of Lee's Grocery, which is in the southeast corner of the site. Entry on both Simpson and on Meyer. Where principally the kind of restaurant patio entry will be on Meyer, and the more public patio will be on Simpson. Pima County and Stratford Artworks had this really good idea that we should open the patio much sooner and get people used to using this wonderful space even before we have the rehabilitation of the Elks Club and the Teatro Carmen. Next. This is an older rendering of the patio site. It's accurate in the patio itself. It's not accurate on the walls in the southeast corner and the south edge, and I'll get to that in a minute. On really good advice from the Tucson Preservation Foundation and others, we've raised those walls to mimic the Lee Market that was on the corner, but we'll get to that in some detail. But this gives you the sense of the way the planters divide the site, stepping down from the finished floor level of the restaurant and then ultimately down to Simpson. There are 3 steps that go down from the lower patio down to Simpson. So most of the patio space is raised. Next. This shows a revised image of that patio. And you can see that while we kept the lower, more accessible elevation in the middle of Meyer, as you go south to Simpson, we've recreated the mass and volume of that corner grocery store, but only as a patio wall with shuttered openings that connect from the outside to the inside. And you'll see a little bit more about that in a minute. So this is the Meyer Avenue elevation, the full elevation on the south side, showing the restored brick Teatro Carmen, the restored Elks Club elevation that we have excellent original drawings of the doors and windows. And then the new construction of the patio, which is enlarged above, showing some see-through gratings as you walk south, and then safe security protected openings with shutters that open in. We're going to use some of the stone to create a stone base on the south side, that is the left side of this drawing, and around the corner. Next. This is now around the corner. You can see in that inset photograph from the oblique aerial that Drew showed earlier that it had a step down along that south elevation, which we are mimicking as well. We had a really good suggestion from Philip Naher at our Barrio Viejo meeting where he thought and I agree with him, that that third window, the one with the red X on it above, and should have a red X on it below, I think we're going to remove that because, as he pointed out, there's not enough room from the top of that lintel to the roof to have actually had a roof structure, and so we think that's really a good addition and suggestion. So this shows the detail of that. As again, those are security protected shutters that open up to the inside. So the restaurateur or the controller of the patio will have the option of opening or closing those. And then as we go further south, just off to the left of this will be our trash collection and entry into the parking area. Not yet elevated, not yet drawn. And that will be a later phase, and we will bring that back to you. Next. Here are some sections. This is on the top, we've got an east-west section looking back toward the Elks Club, showing the new door openings back into the restaurant, low walls and planters in the middle, and give an idea of the height of that patio wall on the right side of that drawing. And then this is looking back to the south. Again, the planters in the middle, the patio wall, the lower patio wall to the left, and then the taller wall and the step down of that south wall. Again, following Philip's suggestion, that third shuttered window on the right will be removed. And those gates then will go out to Simpson. Next. This is one more section looking east on the top. So it's a north-south cut looking back toward Meyer, showing the height of the patio wall, showing the step down foreshortened in the wall along the south edge, and showing that stone planter that will be in the middle of the patio. We're using lights, and I think you'll see some detail later. We're using lights that were actually shown on the original Elks Club, and it's consistent with a lot of the more recent lighting in Barrio Viejo. Those are all night sky compliant. And then finally, a last image looking west, and behind that white wall, screened from the patio, would be the employee parking lot. Again, showing interior and exterior lights. These show the openings. We've got some tricky security issues with panic hardware required to get out of the patio, and therefore some tricky ways that we have to protect the ability to kind of reach around and open the panic hardware from the outside. So we have the shutters shown on the left, top and bottom. We've got the doors, which will, this is generic. The heights of those doors will be on various heights, and those heights then are shown on the right side. Bottom right shows the entry from Simpson. We'll have the gates right at the wall so that we don't have folks sleeping in that alcove, but it'll show a few steps that get you up to the lower patio, which is then higher than the street. Next. And this gives you a sample of the lighting, both inside and out, and the pattern of that lighting. It won't be bright. It will be dark sky compliant, and it'll be enough lighting for the restaurant to function. Next. Okay, let's go back. Drew, can we go back to that first axon that we have of the patio? while we have the conversation. I think that shows the most information. Yeah, let's just hold that. And we're happy to hear any comments from the Plans Review Subcommittee.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have comments?
Just had a question. You maybe will address this later. Is the archaeology going to be done with the Lee's Market area? Is that where you're doing archaeological work?
I'm going to let Scott, if you're willing to answer that question. Scott is an archaeologist, and I'm about to screw up some of the terminology, and he won't. So, Are you there, Scott?
I'm here. If Scott's not available, sorry, I had to jump on a call. But Scott, are you there? Oh, go ahead.
I am now. Thank you. So the patio has been tested archaeologically based on early version of the footing plans for the patio and where ground disturbance was going to take place. The basement of the Chinese grocery was the most significant discovery. It was the basement itself was a stone walls going down at least 5 or 6 feet with a dirt floor. It was filled in probably when it was demolished in the 60s, maybe 70s. And so we have a sample of the fill from the basement. There are artifacts from the 60s that came out of the basement. We don't plan to completely mitigate or excavate the entire basement. We'll only monitor the excavation for the footings as they go in. There's some other features that were on the west side of the patio area where the footer of west wall will go. Pretty features, pretty pits that had a lot of artifacts, probably associated with some of the businesses that were along Meyer Street there. And those have been excavated to the degree they could be in testing. And again, they will, the whole area will also be monitored as ground disturbance footings and so on take place. But, the Chinese grocery on the corner really is just the basement filled with demolition and other debris. There are no features that we found yet that are outside of that, but that will be the source of the stone that Corky was talking about that we'll use for the connector in the patio. Does that answer the question?
One other thing I'm going to add to what Scott said is that because we have a freestanding wall, the footing under that wall is going to be substantial. And since the soils in the fill in the basement is likely to be quite unreliable from a bearing point of view, we are almost certain to do a lot of what we call over-excavation and re-compaction, which means along the Meyer Avenue property line and the Simpson property line, we're going to dig a trench probably 5 feet wide by 5 feet deep. And that will be monitored by an archaeologist, and we may bring up some artifacts or some other archaeological information. Once we dig that trench, we will then backfill that with engineered fill so that our cantilevered footing, meaning the footing goes only inside the property and not outside the property line, will sit on really good quality soil. So our very tall masonry wall will not be waving in the breeze.
Has there been any thought to or anything in your plans to provide any kind of interpretive, photographic and interpretive information incorporated in the restaurant or whatever for the public about this whole site and the area and its significance?
Absolutely. That's definitely an important part of the plan. And because we haven't gotten very far yet on the interior space, we don't have anything to show you, but we believe, as does the SHPO, that this may be a completely unique space in terms of its Hispanic and Anglo and African-American and Chinese, occupation of this space. So that is definitely a part of the plan.
Thank you. I commend you on that. That's wonderful. Thank you. I had one other question, I guess, since no one else is speaking up, and that's on one of your earlier photographs, you know, the more present photograph of the Elks Theater, there are murals on the front above.
We will discuss that.
Okay, all right.
In the next phase.
Okay.
We've got a lot to talk about with that. So,
Okay,
yeah,
I'll shut up and let you move on. Thank you.
that's in the second half. That's the second agenda item. So.
Ricky or Joel, do you have any comments or questions?
Yes, this is Joel. I noted in one of the first photographs you showed you, there was a restroom core in, what was it, blue highlighted?
Yeah, Drew, can you go back to that? Can you? Keep going. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, teal, more teal, I think. Can I ask how that relates to the original, I guess, placement of restrooms, or did we have restrooms, or was it an outhouse situation, or what's the?
So that was part of only the pink and orange and tan were the original teatro. The Elks Club was built with bathrooms and kitchens and bar and everything else. One of the challenges we had, and I'll just mention a comment again from Philip Nair, is that we needed to provide bathrooms for both men and women that will serve both the teatro and the restaurant. And so we needed a location that was adjacent to the teatro lobby, but then could also be used by the bar and restaurant. And so while putting it along the front facade was not our first choice, from a functional point of view, it's the only thing that works. And Philip Nair made a really good, our suggestion was that would be frosted windows along Meyer Avenue. So obviously you get light through there for the bathrooms, and that's really quite helpful, but obviously no vision into there. And Philip Nair made a really good suggestion, which we will certainly follow, and that is to ensure that the Kelvin color of the LED lighting in there is warm, something at 2700 Kelvin or 3000 Kelvin. So it doesn't look like fluorescent lights coming out of a bathroom projecting onto the front elevation. But if you think about the location, you have to serve the bathrooms off the lobby of the teatro, the only way to do it. And we needed to share it with the restroom, with the restaurant. And so that seemed like the only logical way to do that.
Okay, and I appreciate that explanation. I mean, I think that's really creative that we put it there. And I guess my question is just how it related to the original restroom situation in the teatro.
We don't know.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm not sure that there were restrooms in the teatro, honestly.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, all right. Yeah, that's the only question I had thus far. Yeah, thank you, Corky.
Ricky, did you have any comments or questions?
Yeah. Is that the stage in the stage house? That's the part that's being rebuilt that was previously torn down?
Yes.
Okay. But all of this is owned by Pima County currently, so anything, it's not going to be handled like well, I guess it is handled like a community center, correct? It will be when it's open. Is that the intention for this?
Hey, Ricky, it's Herb Stratford. So what do you mean the programming?
Yeah, so I see that patio space you were talking about getting that done so that the community can be involved there, but is that just going to be something that's open or something that's controlled by the restaurant that's there?
So it'll be controlled sort of jointly. I think, there won't be a restaurant operator until there's a restaurant there. So we as Stratford Artworks will be programming that space outside. And I think the idea is that, it'll be used as much as it can be as, for like say micro cinema or small musical things, because there won't be functioning restrooms, we really can't we're not, and not a restaurant. It's not like it's going to be a big kind of opportunity to have things 7 days a week or something like that. Once it opens, I think that'll be part of the operating agreement of how that space is shared. But the idea is that it does have to be controlled. It can't just be like an open park space, because then we would end up with, issues with people squatting and things like that. So it will be, controlled or managed, but I think that's going to be a collaboration between us, Stratford Artworks is the operator of the Carmen, and the eventual restaurant operator.
Okay. And are you planning on doing anything about the plaque that's in front of Teatro Carmen currently?
Yeah, obviously that needs to be reincorporated, and we have not yet figured out what that looks like, but it does need, we realize it needs to be present. I think we want to make sure that all the facts are right on it, but yeah, it just probably needs to be relocated off of the space where it is.
Okay. I think that's the questions that I have from now. It would also just be like nice if people knew I found that picture, but that's just
Yeah,
my
and I was going to
personal
mention that
opinion there.
Ricky is, and I was going to mention that Ricky is the one that found that picture. Ricky was helping me do some research back in 19 when we started. So yes, thank
Wow.
you again for that.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't have really much to add. Just following on Ricky's questions, though, I had one question about, I guess, in advance of the restaurant, and I understand the security concerns and that you can't just leave this open as a park space, but that lower third, the way Corky at least initially described the spaces, whether there was the ability to separate the spaces and perhaps have the south part that sounds like it's more casual, open to some just passive day use, whether in the interim or certainly ultimately when the facility is functioning.
I think it's something that we certainly could explore, but there's definitely going to be insurance issues and liability issues and control issues and things like that in terms of, if the restaurant has a liquor license that extends into the patio. I mean, I think there's a lot of sort of unknowns at this point, but I definitely hear that, and we want to be a good neighbor. So we want to make sure that we have the space, contributing. I mean, right now it's a dirt lot surrounded by a corrugated metal fence. So we certainly are trying to do everything we can to improve the streetscape and the accessibility.
Thank you. And I really like what you did with that corner at Simpson and Meyer and the suggestion that you followed to mimic the building. I think that's just a really, really nice effect. So thank you.
Thank you.
I don't think I have anything else. If you guys have anything else to add, or we can move on to the facade.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about the facade project, which chronologically is the next project we're doing. The county will once we have the drawings done, which will be soon, the county will provide those drawings to their on-call historic general contractors, job order contracts. And that work will commence within the next month and won't take all that long to do. So that will be a kind of a finished product. And I know the county and Herb have been very anxious to show some real progress to folks on the street. And so the facade will go a long way to doing that next. So we've got some pretty amazing photographs. If you look at the historic facade, 1915, 1918, there's some the posters out there talk about the war, World War I. And so we know it's pretty much within that era. The middle one is exactly how it is right now. And then on the bottom, and you'll see obviously much more detail about this, is what we intend to develop. We'll talk about the facade and the mural in some detail in a bit. Also, you can see that the facade is peeling, so we have a good chance to see what the quality of the brick is underneath there. As you might guess, there's some water damage to the first 2 feet. There are 2 layers of stucco. The outer layer comes off with your fingers. The original layer, the original stucco, has a pretty good adherence to the brick, and so it's going to take some hand scraping. And the photograph on the bottom right is the intersection of the brick wall with the adobe wall at that very southeast corner of the teatro. And the top right is Whoopi Goldberg and Mary Louise Parker, and I'll come to that in a minute. Next. So with that great photograph and then the construction drawings that we have from the Black Elks Club by Blanton and Cole, the architects of that, we intend to restore that brick facade, restoring the openings of the 3 arches to allow a covered porch inside. The corbelling will be restored, and some pretty modest lighting that will restore all of that. You can see on the Elks that we had a really cool, what I would call Art Deco handmade doors. And we have the ability then to recreate those doors. The brick will restore back to a natural brick, and then the stucco will be refinished and repainted, and the mural will disappear. And I'll explain why we're comfortable doing that. You could also see on this elevation, and we'll do a little plaster cap of that adobe wall, kind of the tall wall on the left of the Teatro Carmen, and then the concrete block wall on the right side, which has replaced the adobe wall that collapsed sometime in the 70s. Next. Let's look now at, so here are the drawings. And nothing makes architects happier than finding historic drawings that allows us to redo this in with some integrity and some real accurate information. We're not yet sure how we feel about the chubby letters over the door that say Elks, but we'll see what happens with that. But you can see that we will restore that facade to exactly the way it was when it was drawn in the late 40s. Next. And here's the sort of a little bit of the history. You've seen these photographs above before. You can see the Elks Club sign that existed over the Elks Club. You can see the lighting is quite similar to the lighting we're proposing. In the photograph on the right, the arches had already been filled in and the building plastered. And you can see a little bit of the blade sign over the Teatro Carmen. We do not intend to restore that blade sign because we want the building to be more clearly the Teatro Carmen and the restoration of its original brick facade. The images below are screenshots that I took from the Whoopi Goldberg movie, Boys on the Side. And that movie was made in 1995, released in 1996. And I painstakingly went through the film on my computer and then stopped it and took screenshots of the pertinent parts, particularly of that mural. You can see that mural was pretty vibrant when that movie was made, but the mural was made for the movie. It was stagecraft. It was a stage set to make the Teatro Carmen look a little more Chicano at its location. And so you can see that it is faded very badly. I'm almost certain that the painting of Teatro Carmen and those flowers were also done at the same time. We have asked for advice from the Arts Foundation of Southern Arizona, which would be responsible for the decommissioning of any public art, but This does not fall in the category. It doesn't appear on their public art inventory in any way. And given the faux, F-A-U-X, quality of the mural and the reason it was painted, we feel very comfortable going back to the African-American history, which we see on the top of these photographs. Also, all of that Teatro Carmen flowers and stucco and mustard colored stucco will also disappear as we bring back the original brick facade. Next. So here you can see what that facade looked like, let's call it 1918. If you were looking closely, you can see that the arches were substantially diminished, particularly the middle arch. We intend to raise that back to its height. And there is an arch on the right side. You just can't see it because of the poster that's covering it. And I think I have a detail of our best guess as to what the gates of that look like. Next. This shows what that restoration will look like. Again, restoring and these are the gates that we're proposing, really for security reasons. We don't want it to become a place where folks are sleeping overnight. And so the ones on the left and right are single hinged, and the one in the middle is double hinged, and they all fold back against the wall inside. Next. We enlarged that photograph such as it is, and we have a pretty comfortable feeling about what the gates were made out of. We know that they were mostly vertical in orientation and that there was a horizontal band about, what would that be, 2 feet off the ground, Drew?
I think so.
Yeah, and so that's the evidence we're using to put the gates back, which we will need to have as well. Next. This shows the swings of those gates, and the dark line represents framing that we will do in this first phase, so that when we open the arches, we have a way of stopping the opening. So those will be plywood, and there'll be a ceiling. I think we've got a section that shows how that will work as well. So in pink, Meyer is to your left. You come through the gates. This is the porch. And in this phase, we will be building the floor joists for the new upper level and the wall that separates the porch from the lobby, just so that we've got a finite termination of inside and outside in this first phase. We'll be tearing out the floor because that pink wall will need a footing, and we'll be putting a new floor in the porch of the teatro. And then this shows a little bit of the quality. You can see what I mean by the top plaster not being very sticky, and then the other one being sticky. And so we think we can get a restoration of that brick somewhat better than that one, but it won't be perfect. Our specification will call for repointing, and you can see in the right photograph that we had a colored grout, so we'll repoint the brick with that colored grout. And the specifications for the cleaning of the brick will prohibit any power tools. So it'll have to be done all by hand, just to make sure that we do not breach the brick crust. All bricks are a little softer on the inside with a harder crust, and we don't want to breach that crust, although the water has done that for us in the first 20 inches of the wall. And we're real comfortable with our ability to restore that brick facade, and look forward to doing it. As I say, that'll be the next project out of the chute. Drew, can you go back to the hand-drawn elevation? One more. Yeah, that one. Okay, any comments or questions?
Oh, I have a question. So, that original drawing from the Elks Club side that showed the chubby letters for the Elks, do you have any pictures of that? Because the other pictures that you had shown
No, we do
just
not.
had the.
We don't even
Okay.
know, we don't even know if they did it. We know it's in the drawings, but you know, it could well be they didn't like it and never put it up. But we have no images that show that sign.
And does the door have a window in it, those circles?
Yes,
Okay. And I'm gonna come back to my other question. Somebody else can go first.
Anyone else? Joel, Carol?
I just wanted to say what a wonderful job you've done. This is really, you've put a lot of thought and effort into this, and I just think it's really great. I was going to ask about signage as well, but you've sort of addressed that. So.
well, that matters a lot. Thank you.
This is Joel. I've got a couple of questions if you don't mind. I'm sorry. Just 1 second. I'm sorry. Corky, could you? I was wondering about the bar gates that you showed us there. If you can go back to that section. Did you hear me? Are you there?
Yeah, is that what you mean?
I'm sorry. I'm trying to get my picture up. I had my phone ring through my computer. Just 1 second. Yeah. Yes, that's the picture I meant. Can you go over again what the evidence is for the appearance of those sort of straight bars in those?
I will give you the entire evidence. It's that photograph which gets enlarged to, Drew, can you get there? That.
Oh, and it's down in the bottom right-hand corner of the right-hand arch.
Yep.
Okay.
We know we have concrete bases to the arches, and we also know we have a little kind of pilaster capital at the top. But that's the only image and the only knowledge we have of those gates, and we're feeling like that certainly tells us there's a strong vertical to that gate. And that's the best we have.
So that's the best. I have to say that it looks a little, the top of those gates as they are in the drawing seem a little stark to me. I would have thought there would be more of a flare in 1915, or maybe an arch on them, or
Well,
I don't have any evidence myself.
I mean, you get into a pretty sticky situation at that point. I mean, it's totally speculative after essentially the verticality that we could confirm.
Sure.
And we were uncomfortable doing anything decorative. We tried to do them as vanilla as we could, just because anything beyond that would be speculative.
Sure. Okay, sure. Okay, fair enough. I mean, no suggestions in other buildings in
Nope.
in that area.
The only thing I would say is that they would be black and not white like they appear here. So they would not be prominent.
Okay,
Be
fair enough.
much less prominent than they look in this photograph, in this drawing.
Okay. And then you were talking, I don't know, somehow I lost track. You were talking about a new wall with a plywood finish somewhere. Could you go over that section again? I kind of lost track there.
Okay, let me, so
Yeah.
we're gonna open up those arches so that we now, everything inside that porch is gonna be open to the air, right? So you need to make some decision as to how to separate indoors from outdoors. And so we made the choice to build the wall that will eventually be built, not finish it, not plaster it, not do anything fancy, but make that the seal between indoors and outdoors. And that's just not a horizontal problem, that's a vertical problem. Go to the next one, Drew. And so we need to seal where it says Teatro Porch. We also need to seal the inside and the outside vertically. So it will be indoors to the right of that pink wall. It'll be indoors above that pink set of joist. And where the word Teatro Porch is, if it's 30 degrees outside, it's going to be 30 degrees in there. And if it's 100 degrees on the outside, it's going to be 100 degrees in there. So those arches go through that wall on the left.
And may I jump in here too? Just to one of the comments we got with the previous review is we decided not to incorporate the ticket booth. Here we have the ticket booth, but this is just a remnant sort of the schematic design. We haven't really put a lot of in-depth thought in there. So we've chosen just to have a straight wall, 2 straight walls, and we'll develop that later and add it in. But it made it in this version.
I got you. I guess is that a permanent fixture, with the plywood finish and?
No, that's just temporary.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's what I missed.
It's just a weather separation at this stage. And we're doing this in multiple stages. And so sometimes you sort of have to make a decision as to what's going to separate in this case, phase 1 from phase 4. Excuse me, phase 2 from phase 4.
I got you. Okay. Thank you. That helps my confusion. Thanks.
But we didn't want to do something that we would have to tear out later. So those pink walls and floors are the structure that will be there forever, ultimately.
Gotcha. That diminishes my confusion. Thanks.
Thank you. I don't have anything to add except to, thank you for taking this on, and Pima County and Stratford Arts as well for, all you're doing. So thanks very much. And I guess I have a question for staff, just clarifying. I know we talked about this, or I think we did, but I just want to make sure we understand. This is a county-owned facility now. We're doing a courtesy review, but it will not come back through the regular review process. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's a courtesy review. It's county-owned. The county will not be bringing it back for a formal review, as I understand it.
Okay, thank you.
And the permit will run through Pima County, not through the city of Tucson.
Right. Okay. Thanks very much. Well, we really appreciate you coming in and sharing this with us and giving us the opportunity. So thank you all.
And we will be back when we're doing the main theater.
Right. Okay.
Jan, Ricky has her hand up too.
Okay, sorry. Ricky.
Hi. Mine was just the comment about Joel's comment on the gates. I was fine with those flat gates. I don't see any need for a flourish. Joel, the building was built by like a local carpenter, and he had built other stuff in the past, but this was like his first major building. So like, it doesn't surprise me that the gates would have been plain like that.
Oh, thank you for that perspective. That's really cool. Thank you.
Thanks. Anything else from anybody? Well, thanks again. We're excited to see the work begin.
Thank you all. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So Jody, are you going to text Savannah that?
Yep. Text her.
I can
now.
tell her, she's in our office.
Okay, thank
Oh.
you.
Thanks, Drew.
The next one is a courtesy review too, right? The last two?
Yeah,
Correct.
I believe so.
Okay.
And the wonders of, let's see, being on the road, I have to find the agenda.
All the reviews
lost
today,
it.
all the reviews today are courtesy.
Right. Oh, I realize those were separate items. Okay.
Jody, am I allowed to ask a question about the next meeting now? Does that interrupt how we run the meetings?
No.
Oh,
You can-
Or it's our next meeting on the 8th of August? So next
Yes.
week again?
Or
Okay.
September, yeah.
Or, oh
September.
yeah, September. Oh my
Yes,
God.
September, yes.
Thank you.
September. Oh, and Savannah's back. Okay, so if I can, I'll try and find the agenda again. Let's see. Okay, Savannah McDonald has rejoined us and we're moving on to item 3C. The facade restoration was actually 3B. They were broken out separately, which I missed, I guess. 3C is Tucson Inn sign restoration at 127 West Rockman Street and restore an existing sign. This is a courtesy review on the Miracle Mile National Register Historic District, and it's a contributing resource reviewed under rehabilitation standards. Staff, do you have anything to introduce this?
Yes, so this is also a courtesy review. If I recall correctly, they received some federal funds for this project. They were directed through HCD, the Housing and Community Development Department. And it did not go through our office for the Section 106. It was done through the State Historic Preservation Office. As Heather Thrall, our sign guru, reminded me yesterday, you can opt to voluntarily designate this as a heritage landmark sign. You would just need to ID character defining text and character defining features of the sign. But since it's on state land, there would not really be any enforcement action on our part. We would just be recognizing it as a complement to the city's landscape if you opted to designate it as a heritage landmark sign. Jude Cook and Damian Klinko are here to present and Benny Sanchez, I shouldn't forget him, are here to present the project, I believe.
And actually, just for clarification, this is Damian Klinko. I'm not involved in this particular project in today's meeting.
Oh, thank you, Damian.
Thank you. Would you like to go ahead and present them? Not Damian.
Jude.
Jude.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So what I've done is I've looked at the sign, I've been up on the sign, I've noted colors on neon, I've sanded down through the paint to try to pinpoint point in time as far as color. I did see the attachments that were submitted with this. And you guys have any questions on the colors? Do you want me to go through each thing individually?
Well, we'd like to see a presentation of what you're proposing, plans or.
I saw the plans when I first logged in. Do we have access to them here?
Jude, would you like me to share my screen for you?
Oh, please.
Just a second. Let me get that up. Can you see the screen?
I did just a second ago and it snuck away.
Jody, I can see it.
Thank you.
I keep bouncing in and out. It's not locking in very good.
I just have the picture up of the full sign
Okay.
on the 4th page of the document, Jude.
Okay. It pops in and pops out. So what that's representing is the condition of the sign as we've got it. And see if I can get it to pop back up again. Okay, so the view you've got is pretty much what most people recognize as far as the colors on the signs. And what I did is I went through and I pinpointed colors that would have been typical in the period of time that this sign was done or redone. And the sign has been redone multiple times over the years. And so I found a variety of different colors, but I didn't want to go too dramatically different than what you would anticipate it looking like. And so that is where I pinpointed the colors based on what I uncovered when I was sanding through the different layers of paint. I apologize. I am having a heck of a time here. Am I still listening to you guys? Are you guys still listening to me?
Yes.
Oh, yes, okay.
Yes, we're still listening.
Okay, that's good, because that's about all I've got to work with right now. So the colors that I've called out are the colors that represent at least what I think is a point in time based on the different colors that have been painted over the years. As far as the neon colors, what we found by looking at several of different letters is up on the Tucson letters. It's actually 6 strokes of neon. The very outside neon, which is around the perimeter of the letters out there, is actually a green. The first color of neon that's on the inside of the letters is actually, it's blue pumped red, which is pink. And then there's a warm white on the center of that. And then down on the Tucson in color, the neon that we found is closest to it is what's called clear gold 2 now. And that's what we're working with. And then the light bulbs will be a basic white bulb, and we're just going to retrofit it with the same color combination. Basically, they'll look yellow at night. They're basically a clear bulb. What I've found is the yellow bulbs, which look great when you put them in, fade out to clear or white within about a year anyway. What we're doing is pretty much working with the existing fabric of the sign. We're not replacing much. The only thing we're doing is putting new metal in where the old stuff is rotted out. We've got one letter actually off the sign right now because we're seeing it's easier to do it down on the ground. That's pretty much what I've got to give you guys. Questions for me?
I have a question. This is Ricky.
Sure.
So we have that picture that's from 1953 where it shows the sign is blue. But is the lowest paint color that you found on there that red, and that's why it's being painted red?
When I got into it on the one that I've got out here in the backyard, I sanded through and I found red as a base color. Okay. Are you talking about the Tucson letters at the top?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't really run into a lot of blue in that particular part of the sign. And I've got the only blues I ran into were down on the area where we've got the word in.
Mm-hmm.
Found 2 different colors of blue on that. I found a processed blue on the basic shape, and I found a brilliant blue on the edges of the letters in. Up on the top, okay, up on the top, and I have mentioned this, but I haven't encouraged it, is actually what I found on the very base of the shapes of the Tucson letters was black originally. But I don't think I think that fell out of favor pretty fast. And I think they came in and repainted it at some point after that. And so what I shot for was what seemed like the colors that we're recognizing. But I've seen a variety of different things over the years. But the red seems to be somewhat predominant.
Okay, so it's not based off of like a very specific time period.
You know, this thing has probably been repainted 4 or 5 times over the last 50 or 60 years. And it's really trying to come up with something that everybody agrees on. Are you looking at the nighttime photo?
Yes. I guess, sorry, the description says it's actually green, or
Okay.
Tucson is.
You know, there was in the nighttime photo that I've got, I'm pretty sure that those panels up around the Tucson were actually black, but nobody remembers a black. And anybody I've talked to in any of the other photos I've seen, other than that early on one, everything that I remember since the mid 80s has been somewhere in the vein of what I've suggested here.
Okay. That's it for the questions that I have.
Okay.
Anyone else? Well, I guess while people are thinking if they have any questions, I have a question for Jody again, similar, because this is on state land. Is this like the Teatro Carmen? Is this a state project? And so we're having this courtesy review, but we won't see it again? Is that
Correct. You won't see this again. It is a courtesy.
okay? And then I guess when we're done, if you could, and maybe say something about the benefits of the heritage landmark sign designation. You said we have the option to recommend designating it. So although it wouldn't change, it wouldn't provide any extra level of oversight or protection. On the other hand, it seems like if we think it's important, it seems helpful to be redundant, I guess, if you will, if that's what you're kind of saying.
Yes, you nailed it right there on the head. So it is not something that we'll have any overview over because it is on state land, but it does, it's a great sign. It is an awesome sign, and to have it noted as a heritage landmark sign, even if,
Yeah, to have the city acknowledge it, I guess.
Yeah.
Seems important. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Did anyone else have questions or comments for Jude?
If we wanted to make that recommendation, do we need to do it in a motion? How would that be done, Jody? For the heritage landmark sign designation?
Oh, you know what? That's a good question, actually.
Since this is a courtesy review, I was kind of wondering too.
Yeah, I mean, can we?
It might be something, so it might be something because it is a courtesy review and not an action item that we can have back on a later agenda. It'll allow Jude to move forward with the work, but we could have it, whether or not it's a heritage landmark sign, on a later agenda. That way you can make the motion. It'll be an action item. So it could come in a later, I can agendize it later.
Can we note our intent so that it's we're ensured that it comes back for that? I mean, it seems like we're on the same page, so that's not really a concern, but so it doesn't get lost in our busyness. And looks like Damien has his hand up on this.
Yeah, just as a little bit of background, when we brought forward the other historic landmark signs that are adjacent to this property that are also on state land, we did them as a courtesy review, and then the commission just recommended at that time. So there weren't two separate meetings. It was basically, the historic sign designation was part of the treatment plan.
All right, Jody, could we take the action, and then if for some reason you find out that it's not, doesn't have enough heft or it's not valid, then you can bring it back to us, but.
That's your prerogative. Typically a courtesy review doesn't involve action.
Yeah.
But that's your prerogative, and then we can bring it back if necessary, but.
Could we put it on the agenda for next meeting as an action item?
We can.
Just to keep it moving. Yeah, that'd be great.
Soon.
And that's next week. So yeah, that's. or
Maybe our very next meeting.
or the following week, yeah.
Mhm.
I can definitely put it on there. That's not a problem.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Damien, did you still have another comment or is your hand still up? Oh,
No.
thank you. Okay, it looks like we've exhausted our comments and questions. Thank you very much for your work and for your presentation, Jude. And we'll look forward to having a vote on the historic heritage landmark sign designation at our next meeting.
Very good, thank you.
Okay. Sorry, folks, bear with me. So moving on to item 3D, Miracle Mile signage, installation of signage within the Miracle Mile Historic District. Courtesy review, Miracle Mile National Register Historic District, contributing resource evaluated and rehabilitation standards. And Jody, do you have any intro?
Yes, so this is also a courtesy review. It is a grant funded project, and they are placing signage along and within Miracle Mile to promote the historic district. Damien is involved in this one, as is Jude and Rebecca Roop from our office from PTSD. I will let them provide more background on this project.
Thank you very much, Jody. Could you pull up the presentation also on your, like you did with Jude? Is that possible? And while you're doing that, I'll just give a little bit of background. The Tucson Historic Preservation Foundation, because with preparation of the National Register nomination and ongoing project in the Miracle Mile Historic District, we submitted an application for a historic district signage program for Miracle Mile under the Choice Neighborhood Action Planning grant. So the city had received a allotment of funding, which we applied for funding for this particular action activity to really be like demonstrate investments into the area that would help with the overarching goals. One of the primary recommendations out of the Miracle Mile Oracle Area Revitalization Planning process was to create a signage program, and we worked with Community and Housing Development and Rebecca Roop's office for many years looking for funding to be able to do this, and we never. So we're really excited to be advancing this project. The signs themselves were designed and are a derivation of the work that artist Burke Arnold completed for the Gateway Saguaro. So if you're familiar with the Gateway Saguaro, it has a chevron on one side that says Miracle Mile and says Tucson on the other, and it's been featured on a host of magazines and newspapers and TVs and really become an icon of the city. We're using the chevron that says Miracle Mile, and we're adding historic district. And the project has four primary components. Component one is we're proposing to install 4 new neon signs along the corridor that help identify it as the Miracle Mile Historic District. This thing you see in other communities like Los Angeles. They're a smaller neon sign, but they would appear in the median or in the public right of way to the side of the road. We're proposing metal banner signs that would be on, we're calling them banner signs. They're sort of a metal sort of blade sign that is affixed to the side of the street lights. And then the final is a stop sign topper, which we are more familiar and we're familiar with, which will say Miracle Mile Historic District. So those are the 3 graphic elements that we plan to include in the project. And then in addition, we'll have an educational component and a website component. And Rebecca Roop and the City of Tucson are also creating some mapping tools that will probably roll out with this as well. So we're here to answer any questions. Rebecca, is there anything you want to add?
No, you might want to say how many banner and stop sign toppers.
Yeah, so I think the goal is around 50 banners, but that number will potentially be modified depending on the final costs related to production of the neon signs. And then how many, Rebecca? I mean, I actually don't have the numbers.
Yeah, I think it was 30 banners and 50 toppers. Is that correct, Jude? Is still with us?
It's yeah, and I'm breaking up big time.
Okay.
It's 50 of the banners, and I believe we have, I think, is it 35 locations for the stop?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're here to answer any questions you have.
Did I miss it? Were there examples of the blade signs and the stop sign toppers?
Should be in the packet. You guys,
Jody, are you able?
Yeah, go down.
Oh, it got passed. It's on page 12. I think it's 12 and 16.
This is 16.
And again, the major intention of the program is to really help create some identity and branding around the corridor. The historic district is really distinct and unique in the city. 1, it's a commercial corridor. 2, it's actually 4 separate clusters of resources that are discontiguous. So it's a serial nomination of these 4 clusters. And we really feel this will help people understand, because it turns down, it's a linear district that traverses 4 major roads, that it will really help people understand that they're in the district while they're driving it. It really is primarily an automobile experience. So the signage is really, we think, critical in helping to really connect the resources together. And what we've seen is, we haven't been able to implement this program until now, and there still is a lack of understanding of property owners that they're in a historic district. What the resources are. The Tiki Motel was recently demolished, which was really a loss to both this historic district and the culture of the city. So we hope that this program will really enliven and really jumpstart rethinking about these resources and how they can be adaptively reused using federal tax funds.
The sign topper that we're talking about is going to have a similar design to this, right? The one that's on the screen.
Right.
And then the banner ones that you were talking about, how will they be oriented?
They will be on the street lamp poles, and they will on the street lights. And so they'll be larger, and they'll be higher. So when you're driving down the street, you'll see you'll see them along the poles. So you're in the district, and they'll say historic Miracle Mile.
Do you guys have a view of those that you can share with us, or
aren't they in the?
I don't think so.
I don't see either the toppers or the banners in the, at least
I thought they were, but yeah, the banners are not.
Rebecca, is that something you can share?
I'm looking to see if I can share it. looking for it.
But they are the same shape. They're that chevron shape, and they're just flat. And instead of having three-dimensional neon affixed to the face of them, they are just the painted graphic affixed to the pole.
On page 9, there is that map with all of the dots on it. Do those dots represent where you intend to have each of the signs?
Yeah, that's the intention. We may, again, like the when we applied for this funding, we could get a lot for our dollars as time has dragged on, and it took almost a year even to get the funding, to get through the funding process. So it's been about 2.5 years since we initially put the proposal together. Just the escalations that everything are seeing. So we're having to value some aspects. So those dots were the original intents. But as we finalize the final budget numbers, if we have to cut a few of those signs, we would do it very carefully to make sure that the signs were located in the core of the historic district.
Okay.
At the entry points and exit points.
I know you don't have the numbers yet specifically for those, but do you know if you're going to have a preference between like sign toppers or banners as what would be the one removed?
Well, I know, I think we would just decrease the numbers. So I think the sign toppers are the least expensive, and the ones atop the stop signs. So we would maintain, we were to cut back, it would be on the larger banner signs. So we have 50, so if we had 30, I don't think it's going to make that significant of a difference visually. So instead of, again, you can see, we would come up with a thoughtful approach to cutting back the project, but hopefully we won't.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, if it's going to be silent, I guess I'll make a final comment. I am kind of excited to see these go up. I really do like the other neon signs that are in the area, and I think it'll be a good complement to those to have those.
Thank you.
I agree, and I think that it will bring attention to the district and the importance of the resources along this particular corridor. So thank you.
Yes, this is Jan. I agree that highlighting and accentuating the district is great. I have the same question for Jody I've had on each of the others. In this case, with the city's involvement, will this project be coming back to us for an actual review, or is there something different about this as well?
This project will not be coming back to us for review. It is outside of an HPZ or a IID area or anything like that actually would trigger the review, which is why it's coming through.
So it's truly a courtesy review.
We felt it was important to come to the sort of present the overarching goal, and hopefully, if you're willing to make a motion that sort of outlines your support of the project in general, that we can tout.
Well, unfortunately, it sounds like from what Jody said, we can't, but I think we can articulate it as part of this meeting. But from what she was saying, because it wasn't agendized, it's not really part of what we're doing. But I think heard from several people, and I'll say again, I think it's a great effort, and it's actually a huge effort to be doing this.
And this project, the total cost for the project, Rebecca, it's about 125,000, I think is the total, 130, right in that range.
Yeah, we were very excited that HUD chose this as one of the projects and was very supportive of it. But also, as Damien alluded to, this project has been thought about for and planned for many years, way back when the Oracle Area Revitalization Project was going. And found that the history of the area really resonated with everybody. The businesses, the residents, the organizations in the area. And so it's exciting to see this move forward.
Well, thank you very much. And thanks again for the opportunity to review and to see this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is, do we have any updates on the task force on inclusivity?
We do not. Terry said she was gonna look at combining the responses into the document, but I don't think that's been done yet.
Okay. We'll wait for an update. 5A minor reviews. Any updates on minor reviews?
Yes, Madam Chair. I do not have any minor review for tomorrow, but I'm working on a minor review on the sign at 224 North Stone Avenue in West University. That is the only minor review I'm working on right now. Others are coming in, but they're not yet ready for review. So I'll be getting in touch with members to get somebody to help us do this review.
Okay. Do you need that now, or are you going to check back later, Michael?
I will check back later, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. 5B, any appeal updates?
No appeal at this point in time.
Okay. 5C, zoning violations.
I do have one active couple of zoning violations that I'm working on them. I have one which is, oh, let me go back to minor review. I have 327 East 13, which is a fence. That one is actually a zoning violation per se, because it went through the review in Amory Park and the owner decided to build something different from what was approved. And so when we got information about it from the last PRS meeting, we forwarded it to Rick, who's helping us with historic violations, and the owner is willing to come back through the review process for the section of the fence that was constructed without any review or any approval. So that is going to be one of the zoning violation cases that we have that we're working on right now. There is another zoning violation case, 626 North 6th Avenue. The owner decided to just change windows without any review. There's a total of about 8 to 10 windows that have been changed. The material swapped for inappropriate material. So we're working on that. And the same owner has a studio. There used to be a garage. We changed the garage door into a door and put in a new wall. So that is going to be a full review still in West University. So those are the two cases that I have for zoning violation at this point in time.
Thank you. Any review process updates?
Not from me.
Anybody else? Jody or issues? Any review process issues or anybody else?
I don't think that I have any.
Oh, Madam Chair, can I just retract on the minor review that I have pending? Can I get a volunteer today for sometime next week?
Is that the one for the sign, Michael?
No, it's not the one that you're talking about, Ricky. This one is a new sign.
Yeah. I don't know if you had a preference for the morning, but I'm available after 2:30.
Okay, we can do that. Thank you, Ricky.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
You mean Monday through Friday or any specific day?
Yeah, so let's see. Every day except Thursday, I'm available after 2:30.
Okay, we'll do. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, item number 6, summary of public comments. Jody, did we receive any public comments?
We did not.
Okay. And then future agenda items number 7, our next meeting is September 8th. I know we talked about bringing back the Tucson Inn sign restoration of the sign for Heritage Landmark sign designation. Anything else right now?
Not right now
Okay,
that I have. So it could be an incredibly short meeting.
okay. I think that's it.
I mean, just want to add that, you know, when they begin to design designate signs, you'll be looking at character defining features and all those kind of things that we used to do for restoration of signs.
Okay.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, I think that means we're ready to adjourn. It's 2:40. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, bye.